What's up guys, welcome back to Fish of Hex. In today's video I'm going to be showing you the new salt that I'm using in the 125 gallon reef tank, as well as my frag system and the reasons why I've made the switch from reef crystals. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the salt mix that I chose to go with is the Hw-Marinemix. I did pick it up at Bulk Reef Supply and it is a 160 gallon box. Now when it comes to the 200 gallon box of reef crystals, this one actually does cost more in the long run, but I figure for the consistency and the reviews on this product, it's well worth the price. Before we continue, I just want to give a quick shout out to Danny down at Coralus for turning me on to this product. He swears by the consistency and he uses it in all his frag systems as well as his display tank. So I figure if he's using it and being successful with it, why not give it a try? Speaking of consistency, that is the whole reason behind this switch, and I have mentioned in several videos that consistency in water parameters is key to being successful in this hobby. If you do anything, it doesn't matter about your lighting, it doesn't matter about your water flow, but if your water parameters are jacked up or fluctuating on a daily basis, you're just not going to do as well as you could. With that being said, over the last 6 months, I've had two 200 gallon boxes of reef crystals have elevated magnesium levels. I'm talking to the point that it brought my magnesium over 2,000 parts per million. And yeah, that's definitely an issue. I'm not sure what has happened because prior years of using this, I've never had a problem with the magnesium being high. So I don't know if the manufacturing has changed or the overall processing of the salt. I did look on the forums. Some other people are having the same issues. And frankly, I mean, it's not worth the stress. So I went ahead and I tossed the rest of the salt in the garbage and got this new salt from Bulk Reef Supply. Now, you might be asking yourself, what kind of stress is elevated magnesium going to put on my reef tank? Now, when it comes between the relationship of calcium and alkalinity, having elevated magnesium really isn't going to be too bad because its job is to keep calcium and alkalinity molecules separated in the water column. It's when it gets really low that it becomes an issue. Now, with elevated magnesium upwards of 1600 to 2000 or over 2000, you'll find that your snails won't stick to the glass, they won't move around, they look lethargic, they won't eat, and eventually they will die. So in a period of a month, I've wiped out about half of my turbo snail population, and it is my fault because I didn't test the water parameters prior to using it in the reef tank. Now, I'm not going to take the complete blame on it because not many of us will go ahead and test the salt that we've been using for years every time we do a water change. So I'm not going to take the full blunt of the blame on that, but it is partially my fault because I could have prevented it from happening if I just tested the water beforehand. Now, I have since started to test this new salt every single time I use it just because it is a new salt that I'm not used to having. And then when I get like 4 or 5 boxes in and I find that the levels are still consistent all the way, I might cut my testing to maybe every other water change or something like that. The real issues come with the reef tank when those turbo snails finally die because they can't eat. Now, if you've ever smelled a dead turbo snail shell, it is fierce. It is really bad. You have to smell it. It is top 10 worst smells in the world, I guarantee it. And to think that I had 10 of those die in my reef tank in a month's time just goes to show that having a larger water volume can really benefit you when things like this go wrong. Now, regardless of the water volume, when those turbo snails die, they're going to rot, releasing nitrates and phosphates into the water column and then impacting the reef tank in the long run. Now, I knew something was wrong as soon as my polyp extension on my acropora was non-existent and my Monty cap, particularly my red Monty cap, turned dark color, indicating that I had elevated nitrates and phosphates in my water column. So I went ahead and I tested everything and, of course, confirmed the elevated nutrient levels. And, I went ahead and tested calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. Calcium alkalinity was normal, but my magnesium was over 2,000 parts per million. Because I've dealt with this before, I knew that the elevated magnesium ended up killing the snails rotted, and of course impacted the rest of the reef tank. With that being said, I went ahead and removed all the shells that I could, that I knew that they were dead, and I went ahead and took out the turbo snails that were still alive and put them in my frag system. I, of course, drip acclimated them just because I didn't want to cause any more stress than I had to, and got them out of the system, hopefully preventing them from dying. Now, of course, I did lose a couple more in that system, but got them out immediately, and it didn't impact that small 45-gallon tank. With that being said, if you find that your snails are not sticking to the glass, they're not eating, or they're not moving around a lot, go ahead and test your magnesium level because that could very well be the issue that you're having. All right, now that we got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and do a quick review / overall thoughts of this new Hw-Marinemix. Now, one thing that I really like about it is how quickly it mixes up compared to reef crystals at least. And it's within a couple of minutes. Now, I did speed up the video a little bit to show you the process. And my pump in there was a piece of junk, so I ended up having to move the pump around a little bit to get the rest of the salt that was just on the bottom of the barrel. But overall, it only took a couple minutes, and I think that's going to be really good if you have an emergency or you dump a whole bunch of food in the tank or some kind of chemical. You can go ahead and get this salt mixed up very quickly and do a water change. Now, of course, you're going to have to get temperature on the water first, but that's a very good aspect of this salt. Now, I've done about 8 water changes since I've started using this, and I did test calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium every single time prior to use. Now, I will say that I do keep my salt at 1.026 pretty consistently. I tend to go down to 1.025 every once in a while if I have to compensate for elevated salinity levels in my reef tank due to dosing so much 2-part. Now, I will say that across the board, the calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium were consistent every single time. My calcium was about 405 to 410, which is pretty good. Alkalinity via the HANA checker was 9.2 to 9.24, and that stayed pretty consistent as well. And then the magnesium, which I was worried about from the prior salt, is about 13 to 1320, and that is a pretty good fluctuation for me when it comes to magnesium. Now, when it comes to doing the water changes, I did do about half the amount that I usually do just in the beginning because I really wasn't sure what the impact on the reef tank was. Now, if you're not aware of this, I am cutting up my reef tank on pretty much a daily basis to keep up with the coral sales, and it puts a lot of stress on the tank. And the last thing I wanted to do was just put a new salt in there and cause issues. Now, because the water parameters are in the appropriate range, I really wasn't too worried. And frankly, if they weren't, I probably wouldn't have used the salt in the first place. But with that being said, I did the smaller water changes, and I did them every few days just to, get the levels back down on the magnesium. And, I'm still a little bit high in magnesium, and I've since stopped dosing it on my auto doser as well. But, it's still up there. The snails are still in the frag system, and, it's just going to be a work in progress. The last time I had elevated magnesium levels, it took about 3 months to get it back down, and that was with consistent water changes. And it's just something that it just takes time. Now, with all that being said, I'm really happy with the salt so far. I'm having more consistency within the reef tank, and that is something that I've been wanting for a while since I've been struggling with fluctuations. And I have noticed that my red Monty cap is getting a wider ring than it has had in several months. And with all the cutting in the tank, the fact that it's still growing is good, and it makes me happy. So I'm going to continue to use this salt from this point forward. Now, the plans on the reef tank, the new reef tank, the 300 gallon, and it's kind of funny, is I'm going to be doing 80-gallon water changes every 2 weeks to keep up with that water volume. Is standard 20%. And I figured that I'm going to be going through a box of that a month. So it is going to be a little expensive when it comes to doing the water changes. But if I know that it's going to be consistent and it's going to be beneficial for my reef, it's well worth the price. Now, there's one more thing I want to mention about this salt, and it's about mixing it. You never want to mix it too quickly. And what I mean by that is if you have 10 gallons of water and you intend to do a 30-gallon water change, instead of waiting for your RODI system to fill up the rest of the 20 gallons, some of us tend to just go ahead and throw in the full 30 gallons of salt, throw in the pump, and just let it mix up and continue to add water to the point on the container. Now, that's going to be an issue. It's actually going to cause an exothermic reaction within the salt. The salt will never clear up and never become clear, and you'll have issues with the calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium levels within it. So if you end up doing that, just go ahead and toss the water out and start over, because you don't want to put that in your reef tank. First of all, it will make your reef tank very cloudy, and you'll have very low levels of calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium that might cause an issue on your SPS colonies. All right, so just keep that in mind when you are mixing this salt up. Well, guys, that's about it for this video. I appreciate you watching. I think 9 minutes of talking about dead snails, magnesium, and salt is more than enough, but I wanted to get that information out to you so you guys can be aware of the issues within the tank and make adjustments as needed. Now, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the comment section below, or contact me directly via email, or better yet, get me at fishofhex.com and contact me that way. It goes directly to my main account. Now, I also want to mention the YouTube Messenger is not a good way to message me. It doesn't notify me of incoming messages, and sometimes I don't check it for weeks, so there will be a significant delay. Now, if you get me through email, it's usually within a day or two. I'll do my best to get back to you. Now, also, guys, regarding the website, coral stocking is changing every single day. I'm updating inventory because I'm cutting it every day, and stuff is coming and going very, very quickly. So just keep an eye on that stuff. And if you have any questions about anything, please let me know. Either way, if you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're a troll and you're a douchebag and you don't like my video, or you don't like me for whatever reason, go ahead and give it a thumbs down, because I still appreciate those. And if you like the content I provide for this community, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.